What is happening, everybody? This is Dave Croft, and welcome to the 52 Qs podcast, your weekly insight into all things production and library music. It is so good to be with you today. It is our very, very special live episode where we are doing our Christmas in July Composer Quest voting. It is so good to be with you. We have so much to cover today. So for you, if you are joining us live, we got several folks hanging out. What is good? Jerome, Gun Britt, Mrs. 52 Qs, Dex, Jake, Chris is hanging out with us, Yuka, Darren, Simon, Nathan. What is happening? And so really, really good to have you all with us today. And if you're watching on the archive or if you are listening to this a little bit later, thank you. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for spending part of your day here with me today. I know you have a ton of options out there, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening to the audio on the go. So just know that I sincerely appreciate you. So what we're going to be doing today, I am going to be playing through all of the submissions for our recent Christmas in July Composer Quest. And you, yes, you, and you, even you, are going to get to vote on the winners. Now, the way that we do the voting here isn't which is the best as much as it is which one do you like. So we use a 5-star system. It's kind of like ranked choice voting. But that's what we're going to be doing today. And if you want to get your scorecards ready, head out to 52qs.com/vote. And you can join in on the live vote. Oops, hey, that was supposed to be a slow fade. This is live. It's live, right? So that's what's happening. Good to see you, G-Fi. Good to see you, Terry, Ron, Ronnie, Jens. What is happening? Thank you so much. Ms. Goodspeed is in the hizzle. Can I get away with saying hizzle? It's in the house. But we've got so much amazing music. Now, our Christmas in July Composer Quest was divided into 3 areas. We had, and let me see if I can't pull it up. Our Christmas in July Composer Quest was divided into 3 areas, namely Classic Christmas Magic, which was the grandeur and splendor of the holiday season with strings and brass and choirs. Then we also had High Energy Holiday, where whether it's pop or rock or epic hip hop, the idea was to make high energy Christmas music. And then finally, we're going to wrap up the voting today with our Acoustic Christmas brief, which is cozy, intimate Christmas arrangements, crackling fireplaces, and soft falling snow. So those are the briefs. And our composer questers have been writing to each of the briefs. And so we've got like 10 or 15. No, I don't think 15, but we have anywhere between like 9 to 13 per category. So I think we should jump on in. I think we should jump on in, and Mrs. 52 Qs put a link up there for you folks in the chat, so you can check that out. So again, 3 briefs, epic stakes. As far as the winners, we've got discounts. There is some Composer Quest swag, and the opportunity to have these cues actually published up to a real live music library. In fact, some of the cues you were listening to before we started, actually, if you weren't listening live, you didn't catch this, but were cues that were published over at Level 77 Music. You could go to level77music.com, and there were 2 Christmas albums that we published last year during our family briefing room. But this year we're opening up through the Composer Quest, and if cues, if they're ready, if they're good to go, then we're going to be publishing up 3 albums. 2 are going to be going up to Level 77, the Acoustic Christmas and the Christmas Magic going up to Level 77, and then the High Energy album we are sending up to CBS Sports for NFL broadcast. They love them. They love them some Christmas music. And now the voting today doesn't really have any kind of impact on what we're looking to pitch up. The winners today, and whoever places first place in each category is going to be invited onto the podcast. We're going to listen to their music. We're going to talk about their careers and really just kind of shine a light. It's almost kind of like a victory lap for those composers. But that's what we're doing today, and I could not be more excited to be with you. It's going to be a really good time. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, it's probably going to go an hour and a half, maybe even longer. But I have a description for each of these cues, and we're going to listen to them. Go to 52cues.com/vote, and that is where you are going to click on each individual cue and a 1 to 5 star rating. Now, what does 1 star versus 5 star? What does all that mean? Well, that's entirely up to you. It can mean whatever you want it to mean, but basically, how much did you like it? How much did you enjoy it? How much do you think it really kind of captured each of the individual briefs? So that is at 52cues.com/vote, and you can check that out. Any questions or anything before we get started? Otherwise, I'm ready to boogie, and we'll get started with Classic Christmas Magic. Now, the brief itself for Classic Christmas Magic was asking for: unleash the grandeur and splendor of the holiday season with lush strings, soaring brass, and heavenly choirs. Picture snow-dusted landscapes, twinkling lights, and the warmth of family gatherings. Your orchestral compositions could be the perfect underscore for holiday films, commercials, and TV specials. So that's what we are looking at, and that's what we are going to be listening for this first batch of cues. So the first cue that we are going to listen to, we're going to check out Sugared Merlitons. Merlitons? Simon, you told me what that means, but I've forgotten. This is a cheeky orchestral dreamed cue combining movements from the Nutcracker. So we are going to take a listen to that. This is Simon Tong with Sugared Merlitons. All right, that was Sugared Merlotins from Simon Tong. Simon, thank you so much for sending this along. And he wanted to make sure that we knew that it's a dramedy, not dreamed. He said, "Oh, I hate being dyslexic." To be honest, it was probably correction, like a typo. It was probably thought it was a spelling mistake, text correction. So yeah, and just to put some more context with these briefs, we're looking for mid to up tempo, running 2 to 3 minutes or so, and can be original compositions or public domain covers, instrumental or vocals. That's what we are looking for. Yeah. Give him some love there in the chat, everybody. Show Simon some love. Really appreciate that. All right, next up, we are going to take a listen to Merry Mistletoe. And this is from Nathan Toft, who is no stranger to the winner circle here in the Composer Quest. He says that this cue is stubbornly happy throughout and hopefully captures a child's excitement through the Christmas season. Inspiration comes from the Troika section of Prokofiev's Lieutenant Kijé suite and a touch of Coldplay. Maybe in the contrasting section. So let's take a listen to, we're going to take a listen to Merry Mistletoe. Right, that was Merry Mistletoe from Nathan. Nathan, thank you so much for sending that along. And as a reminder, head over to 52cues.com/vote, get out your scorecard, and start voting now. Really nice job. Let's give Simon his flowers there in the chat. Lots of love. Yeah, stubbornly happy. That's great. That's a great way to put that. Absolutely. All right, coming up next, let's see. All right, coming up next, we have Jake Cox, and Jake wrote a cue called A Wintry Walk. He said, I recorded myself whistling and humming melodies during work, and I think this was my 6th tune before settling on this one. I really wanted this cue to have a nice, lush string section, so, let me know how I did. So let's take a listen to Wintry Walk. All right, that was A Wintry Walk from Jake Cox. Jake, thank you so much for sending that along. Really, really appreciate that. Give him his flowers. Show Jake some love there in the chat. Really, really appreciate that. Next up, we have Jerome Dotato. Jerome, I know Jerome's hanging out with us in the chat, as was Jake, and as was Nathan, and as was everybody else so far. So that's great. This is called Heavenly Birth, and this is a trailer-style orchestral hybrid soundscape inspired by the story of Jesus' birth, featuring strings, woodwinds, bells, choral vocals, synthesizers, and big drums. You can follow the chapters of the story from the Immaculate Conception, pregnancy, the journey to Bethlehem, no room at the end, comfort in the stables, angels rejoice, and finally, the birth. So let's take a listen to Heavenly Birth from Jerome Dotato. All right, that was Heavenly Birth by Jerome Dotato. Jerome, thank you so much for sending that along. Really, really appreciate that. Head over to 52cues.com/vote. Rate it from 1 star to 5 star. Really, really appreciate you. Next up, we have Gun Brit, and Gun Brit says about her cue, Magical Mixture. From house and techno, it's interesting and rewarding to break completely and experiment with orchestra and feel the walk to the church. So here is Gunbrit Sunstedt with her cue, Magical Mixture. right, that was Magical Mixture from Gun Brit. Sorry, Gun Brit, I stepped on the button. My apologies. That's Gun Brit with Magical Mixture. Really, really appreciate you sending that along. Thank you so much. Next up, we have Simon, and Simon sent along Sleigh Bell Waltz, which is an orchestral waltz featuring live flugelhorn, like where this is going, and sleigh bells, and it's loosely based on the Sussex Carol. Now, just a point of clarification, composer questers could send up to 3 submissions. So if you're saying, hey, that Simon guy has been around before, yes, you can submit up to 3 total submissions for the composer quest. All right, so next up, Simon with Sleigh Bell Waltz. All right, that was Simon with Sleigh Bell Waltz. Yeah, hearing some flugelhorn, that's what's up. Chuck Mangione, who? So really appreciate it. I'm sure there are several other very accomplished flugelhorn players, but I don't know who they are. I've never heard. And then finally, Martin Ader with Ice Waltzing with Santa. He says, the genesis of this piece is a bit odd. Originally, I wanted to revitalize an old piece. It was written for synthesizers, and I wanted to adapt it for orchestra. Unfortunately, that didn't work out, so I took a bit of the idea with me and transported it into a previously successful orchestral template. The result you can now hear. I hope you like it. So let's check out Ice Waltzing with Santa from Martin Ader. Off we go. That was Ice Waltzing with Santa from Martin Ader. Martin, thank you so much for sending this along. So make sure that you head over to 52cues.com/vote to cast your vote for all of these cues. They are a 1 through 5 star situation or setup. And if you want to vote them all 5 stars, that's cool. If you want to vote them all 1 stars, I guess that's cool. But why so angry? It's okay. It's Christmas music. Man, get some gingerbread cookies and make some apple cider or some hot cocoa. I agree. Shannon, why am I drinking coffee and not hot cocoa? That could have gotten into the spirit, or some Russian tea or something like that. So I think there's time. I think there's maybe time, Shannon, for you to run to the grocery store and get some gingerbread cookies. Anyway, so head over to 52cues.com/vote to cast your vote today. And while you're there, check out some of the merch. You can get yourself a 52Q shirt just like this. All right. Next, let's move on to the next category, which is high energy holidays. Now, if we were looking at the brief, I'm going to go ahead and bring over the briefs so you can kind of see what the composers were working with. We had each of the briefs. This was the classic Christmas Magic brief that we just went over. The next brief, which is High Energy Holidays, says, bring the party to the holiday season with high energy tracks that get everyone moving. From party pop to riffing rock and festive funk to holiday hip hop, these cues are the soundtrack to holiday sports, commercials, and dynamic montages. So infuse the season with swagger, excitement, and cheer from Thanksgiving to Christmas and Hanukkah to New Year's. So we are looking for a 2 to 3 minutes. This would be originals, or public domain covers, instrumental, or vocals. So, and by the way, we also had a ton of references that folks could check out, and the file specifications and all of that business. So without further ado, let's talk about our very, very first submission for the high energy hip hop. This is Please Shred. Please shred these. Please Shred Ye Merry Gentlemen from Ralph Oleski. And so let's take a listen. Let's get this queued up and take a listen to Please Shred the Ye Merry Gentlemen. All right, that was Please Shred Ye Merry Gentlemen from Ralph Oleski. Ralph, thank you so much for sending this along. A lot of love for the rock setup. Man, forget the hot cocoa. Get a beer at chocolate stout rounds on Shannon. And also, Jenny gave Shannon some love on the graphics, and I have to completely agree. Shannon, is an amazing designer and has outdone herself like this. All of these graphics and everything, these are all Shannon, man. This is Shannon. Yep. So having a pocket marketing guru and art director, that's pretty pretty handy. So appreciate that. Thank you, Shannon. Oh man, I love you so much. You have absolutely outdone yourself. And what's really fascinating is watching her process and how she will get an idea. And if you look at her artboard, like her Illustrator artboard, it is just it's absolute organized chaos. But man, she makes really, really good stuff. So now I'm just bragging on my wife. But to see her process, which is and it's no different. I mean, now she's a musician and a music director, but it's no different than if you were to look at the studio and my desk after a writing session. There's just like instruments everywhere and cables and mics and everything. So anyway, all right, moving on. Next up, we have Nathan again. Nathan says, this is his cue called 8-Bit. We have heard on high. Says, break out the headband and leg warmers. This is my 8-Bit / chiptune / synthwave / 80s inspired take on Angels We Have Heard on High. You'll notice I've taken some liberties with parts of the melody to fit the vibe. So here is Nathan Toft with 8-Bit We Have Heard on High. All right, that was Nathan Toft with 8-Bit We Have Heard on High. Lots of love. Everybody's giving Nathan his flowers there in the chat. Really, really appreciate that. Stellar work, my man. Really, really good job. Next up, we have Terry Bowen with Christmas Rush. Says, this is an indie rock Christmas cue with live electric guitar and bass. The cue makes me think of people rushing around during the holidays, hence the name. And I think this cue could work for non-dialogue action scenes. So let's check out Terry Bowen with Christmas Rush. All right, that was Christmas Rush from Terry Bowen. Terry, thank you so much for sending that along. Really, really appreciate that. As a reminder, head over to 52cues.com/vote. Voting is happening right now. And by the way, Shannon, how long are we keeping voting open? I think there's so many of these here. Should we maybe leave voting open a little extra longer than usual? Maybe, I'm thinking maybe like a week, so that everybody can listen to everything into the weekend longer. Maybe we'll talk about it. But voting is going on right now, at least for the next several days. Next up, we have Ralph Martin with Three Kings. Let's take a listen to it. All right, that was Ralph Martin with Three Kings. Yeah, crushing the flute, man. I was hoping when I saw Ralph's submission come in, I was like, oh man, we better bring some flute, because that is his superpower. So really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much for sending that along. Next up, we have the Reshkis, Michael and Yuka Reshki. I think they are hanging out with us in the chat today. This is called Dig the Hole, which is Deck the Halls, but an epic hip-hop cover. We are thinking that this would be good for sports broadcast. We use strings, horns, Brahms, 808, and drums to give it a nice thick sound. We also recorded sleigh bells. Of course, not as nice as Jens' sleigh bells. Yeah, Jens, I think I saw Jens. Yeah, Jens, if you just permit me to talk a minute about Jens. Jens lives in Germany, and he found these antique sleigh bells it's like that were his grandfather's or great grandfather's sleigh bells in his like in a farmhouse or something like that. But is today 808? Yes, today is National 808 Day. Yeah, I'm down with that. Happy 808 Day, everybody. But he found these antique sleigh bells that sound absolutely amazing. And I was like, man, I'm going to get me some of those sleigh bells. So I went on to eBay. I couldn't find them. Then I went on to Etsy, and they're like $2,000 because they're like legitimate antique sleigh bells that some farmer put on his horse at Christmas time. So that's what we're talking about there. All right, so let's take a listen to "Dig the Hole," and then we'll talk about it. That was "Dig the Hole" from Michael and Yuka Reshki. Thank you so much for sending this. I gotta tell you, man, would you put "Deck the Halls" in a minor key? It sounds like a Russian national anthem or something, man. It had this really dark, like Soviet era kind of vibe to it, but really, really enjoyed that. That was fantastic. Thank you so much for sending that along. Not that there's anything wrong with Soviet era Russian music, big nationalistic pride, but anyway, thank you so much. Next up, we have Gun Brett with her second cue, singing along "Tingling Goes Techno," or is it "Tinkling"? Maybe like "Tingling." Tingling has gotten a little tired of flying around, so now she wants to dance. So let's take a listen to "Tingling Goes the Holidays" from Gun Brett. All right, that was Gunbrit with Tinglingos Techno. Thank you so much for sending that along, getting some really kind of underground Swiss house. Nice job. Next up, we have Manuel Hosfeld. Manuel hanging out in the chat today. This is Every Year Again. For this high-energy holiday submission, I created an instrumental hip-hop version of Alle Jahre Wieder, or Every Year Again, a well-known German Christmas song. I aim to preserve the traditional feel of the original while progressively introducing typical hip-hop elements to maintain interest despite the simple melody. So, here is Every Year Again from Manuel Hosfeld. All right, that was Manuel Hosfeld with Every Year Again. Manuel, thank you so much for sending that along. Really appreciate that. Next up, we have Reed Gestelin. Reed is in the house today. Angels We Have Heard on High. He says, I've always wanted to do my own versions of Angels We Have Heard on High, and today I have finally done that. I composed this using Famous Dave's subtraction arrangement process. This is an orchestral version using organic percussion to keep the momentum driving forward. So here is Reed Gestelin with Angels We Have Heard on High. That was Reed Gestelin with Angels We Have Heard on High, getting his flowers there in the chat. Really appreciate it. Thanks, chat room. And Shannon gave him some props on the wind runs. And, you know, she's a piccolo player, so she knows something about wind runs. All right, next up, we have Ralph. Ralph Martin sent along 3 Ships, which is a hip-hop spiced Christmas cue featuring piano, flute, and vibes. So here is Ralph Martin with 3 Ships. Oops. All right, that was 3 Ships from Ralph Martin. Ralph, thank you so much for sending that along. Super appreciate it. Next up, we have G-Fi, and I know G-Fi is in the house today. This is Holiday Flow, which is a hip-hop cue based on the Christmas song Carol of the Bells. So let's take a listen to G-Fi with Holiday Flow. right, that was G-Fi with Holiday Flow. G-Fi getting tons of flowers in the chat. Really appreciate you on that. Thank you so much for sending that along. Really stellar work, man. Stellar work. Next up, we have Ralph Martin with Realm of Glory. This is a hip-hop spicy Christmas cue featuring piano, flute, and vibes. Let's check out Realm of Glory from Ralph Martin. Oh, I got a little turnaround there at the end. Ralph, thank you so much for sending that along. That was Realm of Glory from Ralph Martin. So from one Ralph to another, next up we have Joy to the Rockin' World. All right, that was Joy to the Rockin' World from Ralph Oleski. Ralph, thank you so much for sending that along. So one of the things I actually forgot to do at the end of the Magical Christmas is do just a quick kind of rundown of each of the cues. So what we're going to do now is we're going to listen through all of the high energy, And then I'm going to double back and we're going to listen through the orchestral Christmas, just to get a little taste as a reminder. So get your scorecards ready. We're going to take just a little sip of each of these. First stop with Please Shred Ye Merry Gentlemen. All right. Oops. Sorry about that. And next up, we have Nathan with 8-Bit We Have Heard on High. And then we had Terry Bowen with Christmas Rush. Next up, we have Ralph Martin with Three Kings. Then we had Michael and Yukareshki with Dig the Hole. Then we had Gun Britt with with Tingling Goes Techno. All right, and then we had Manuel Hosfeld with Every Year Again. Then we had Reed Gesteland with Angels We Have Heard on High. Then we had Ralph Martin with Three Ships. Then we had G-Fi with Holiday Flow. Then we had Ralph Martin with Realm of Glory. And then finally, Ralph Oleski with Joy to the Rockin' World. That riff, Ralph, is so nasty. All right, so those are your high energy cues, and you can vote now. Let's, like I said, let's circle back. Let's listen to our Christmas magic cues. So if you want, I'll give you a moment. You can go ahead and pull up the scorecard for that. And so let's start first with Simon with Sugared Merlotons. Next up, we have Nathan Toft with Merry Mistletoe. Then we had Jake Cox with A Wintry Walk. Then we had Jerome Dotato with Heavenly Birth. Then Gunbrit with Magical Mixture. Then we had Simon with Sleigh Bell Waltz. And then finally, Martin Ader with Ice Waltzing with Santa. All right, so those are your orchestral Christmas cues from your Christmas magic. Again, make sure that you head over to 52cues.com/vote to cast your votes now. All right, we've got one more brief that we're going to be going over, and this is the brief, which is Acoustic Christmas. So, an Acoustic Christmas says, capture the cozy, intimate side of Christmas with acoustic arrangements. Think crackling fireplaces, softly falling snow, and heartfelt moments shared over hot cocoa. Whether it's fingerstyle guitar, gentle piano, or warm vocals, your cues should bring the magic of a folksy Christmas to life. Again, we are looking for originals or public domain covers, instrumentals, or vocals, and we're looking to slow to mid-tempo around 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So that's what we are looking for with the Acoustic Christmas. So first out of the gate, we have Nathan, and Nathan says, let's get over here. Nathan says, this is a midwinter music box. This cue is based on the hymn In the Bleak Midwinter by Christina Georgina Rossetti in 1872. I thought the contrast of music box with some sort of Nordic solo stringed instrument would convey the silent and lonely side of winter. Thanks to the Mastermind group for suggesting I try a hurdy-gurdy instead. Oh yeah, I remember that. Looking for, I haven't actually heard this yet, so I'm looking forward to some hurdy-gurdy. All right, next up, Nathan with Midwinter Music Box. All right, that was Nathan Toft with Midwinter Music Box. Thank you so much for sending that along. I just want to, there was a question that came up there in the chat as far as voting. If you go over to 52cues.com/vote, scroll down underneath voting, there is a button there. and the button says "Let's get started." Just click on that, and you can click for first your classical Christmas, then you can click on into high energy holidays, and then click on the next category into acoustic Christmas. So hopefully that'll get you where you need to be. All right, next up we have Ralph Oleski with "We Wish You an Acoustic Christmas." Acoustic goodness, lots of acoustic guitars. So let's check out "We Wish You an Acoustic Christmas" from Ralph Oleski. That was "We Wish You an Acoustic Christmas" from Ralph Oleski. Ralph with the hat trick sending on his third cue. Really appreciate that. I got to tell you, "We Wish You a Merry Christmas." You remember when the Muppets made their Christmas album? Not the Muppet Christmas Carol, which is the best version of A Christmas Carol, and I will fight anybody who says otherwise. But they made a Christmas album, and I can't hear "We Won't Go Until We Get Some" and not hearing Animal going "Won't go, won't go." It's woven into my consciousness. So yes, but Ralph getting his flowers there in the chat, really appreciate that. Won't go, won't go. All right, so next up we have Darren. What's good? I know Darren's hanging out with the chat in the chat. He wrote "Angels Memories." He said, "I use the Christmas Carol Angels We Have Heard on High as inspiration. I started noodling and eventually landed here." So let's check out "Angels Memories." That was Angel's Memories from Darren Lewis. Now I am being very deliberate about not making many comments in between, but I do want to say one thing to you, Darren, because I know you're in the chat. If you haven't already, check out arrangeme.com. You should absolutely work up the sheet music for this. Now, somebody in the chat said it would require 3 hands. So maybe that's true. Maybe that's true. However, I think there's a real opportunity. That's solo piano, making sheet music for that at arrangeme.com. I highly recommend. If you haven't done it, if you've never even thought about it, you've got something with that. And you're leaving money on the table if you're not selling that arrangement over at arrangeme.com, where you can self-publish your sheet music for that. Really nice work. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. All right, next up, we have George Clerk. And George sent along the first Noel. Somehow, I managed to make this way more complicated than it needed to be, but enjoyed the process and learned a bunch along the way. Recording classical guitar, ukulele, and acoustic, then trying to get them to work with the other sounds in the track proved to be more challenging than expected. The process gives me a new level of respect for what seems like simple, intimate, and stripped-down recordings. So let's check out the first Noel from George Clerk. That was George Clerk with the first Noel. By the way, I think that's the first Noel, but I think it's the second Sonic Couture music box sighting that we have had. And if you are looking for a music box sample library, get thee over to soniccouture.com. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. This is not a plug, but Sonic Couture has a sample library called Music Boxes, which is absolutely free. And it is fantastic. If you are looking for a music box, that's, as far as I'm concerned, the first and last music box library you need. So, I think, Nathan, I think you had that in yours, and really, really, really nice work. Okay, so next up, we have the return of Mr. Terry Bowen. This is Christmas Coffee. This acoustic guitar cue includes piano, Christmas bells, and sleigh bells. I'm pretty new to recording acoustic guitar in a room, and this was my first attempt at a stereo mic setup. It was pretty challenging, but a good learning process. So let's check out Christmas Coffee from Terry Bowen. Right, that was Christmas Coffee from Terry Bowen. Terry, thank you so much for sending that along. Really, really lovely work. Next up, we have Simon with Silent Delight. Simon says, Christmas by the beach with a laid-back Latin twist. So let's check out Silent Delight. right, that was Silent Delight from Simon. Yeah, the only thing missing were some Esquivel, like zoo, 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 some vocals or something like that. That'd be pretty dope. But Simon, thank you so much for sending that along. Really, really do appreciate that. Speaking of vocalists, our first real vocal cue of the night. This is Jenny Goodspeed with In the Bleak Midwinter. She says, I love Christmas hymns that tend a little toward the melancholy, and I wanted to gain experience recording, editing, and mixing my own vocals. So I chose a few verses of In the Bleak Midwinter to sing and created a quiet piano, harp, zither, celeste, and string quartet accompaniment. Enjoy. So here is Jenny with In the Bleak Midwinter. Sorry, guys. I don't want to say anything because I want to sway your votes or anything, but you know, there's a saying that says, music charms the soul. Yeah. Thank you, Jenny. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for sending that along. Shannon will back me up. I have such an emotional response to music, and I make no apologies for it. But there are certain things which just create moments. And friends, we just had a moment. That was a moment. So thank you, Jenny. Really appreciate that. Really appreciate that. Okay, moving on. All right, collect myself, keep it together, gotta keep it together. I do have a podcast to run here and a live stream to run. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate that. Next up, we have Martin Ader. Martin with Jolly Good Fairies. And he says, some time ago, I wrote a cue for my very small kitten. Uh-oh. Oh, I'm a cat person. During the Christmas season. At that time, I only used a synth. Since this cue had no other use, I rewrote it a bit and rearranged it with acoustic instruments. And I hope you like it as much as my cat does. All right, so let's take a listen to Jolly Good Fairies from Martin. That was Martin Ader with Jolly Good Fairies. Man, so many interesting things. I gotta tell you, is it okay to say that I am so proud of you guys? I am so proud of this community. This is absolutely amazing, man. I almost got all choked up on that one. Martin, thank you so much. Really, really stellar work. Next up, we have Manuel with Merry Christmas Everywhere. This is my version of, I'm going to try to pronounce this German, Fröhlich Weihnacht überall, Merry Christmas Everywhere, a traditional German Christmas song. By the way, how did I do, Manuel? Did I do okay? For this acoustic rendition, I aim to create a relaxed, festive atmosphere with friends and family. Despite its traditional feel, I added a modern upbeat vibe by incorporating unique percussive elements beyond typical sleigh bells, giving it a fresh twist not usually heard during Christmas songs or in Christmas songs. So let's check out Merry Christmas Everywhere. right, that was Manuel with Merry Christmas Everywhere. Thank you so much for sending that along. Really, really super appreciate that. And Manuel gave me a thumbs up on my German pronunciation. Vielen Dank. Ja, Mensch. All right. And then finally, Gar Ashby with Rising Hopes and Falling Snow. This is an original acoustic Christmas song featuring ukulele, vibes, and of course, sleigh bells with a wholesome, fun feel. So rounding up today's Christmas cues, we have Gar with Rising Hopes and Falling Snow. Right, that was Gar Ashby with Rising Hopes and Falling Snow. Gar, thank you so much for sending that along. So let's go ahead and take a listen to all of the cues as we recap the acoustic Christmas cues. So starting off with Nathan with Midwinter Music Box. And then we had Ralph Oleski with We Wish You an Acoustic Christmas. Next up, we had Darren Lewis with Angels Memories. And then we had George Clerk with The First Noel. Then we had Terry Bowen with Christmas Coffee. Next up, Simon with Silent Delight. Then we had Jenny Goodspeed with In the Bleak Midwinter. Martin Ader with Jolly Good Fairies. Then we had Manuel Hosfeld with Merry Christmas Everywhere. And then finally, Gar Ashby with Rising Hopes and Falling Snow. So again, thank you so much, everybody. Really stellar, amazing, amazing work. I could not be prouder of all of you. Thank you so much for sending all of those along, and voting is happening right now. Go to 52cues.com/vote and cast your vote. Give them 1 to 5 stars. It's entirely up to you. It's entirely up to you. I want to thank everybody for hanging out in the chat room today. We're going to be announcing the winners either in the next week's podcast or the week after. We're going to see how long we want to keep voting open. There are so many cues here. I think like 35 or 40 cues or anything. And I want to thank you if you are still hanging in. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. I know we've been going almost 2 hours now, but really appreciate you. And you know who else I appreciate? Our family, friends, and neighbor subscribers of 52 Cues who really do keep all of this going. See, we don't take a bunch of outside sponsors. You will never, well, I don't want to say never, but you have never heard any ads for earbuds and all those kind of things. That's because we're able to do what we do here, putting things like Composer Quest and Briefing Room and all of this other stuff because of the subscriber members. So, and I know we have so many subscribers hanging out with the chat today, so really, really appreciate you. But you know what? Even if you aren't a paid subscriber of 52 Cues, that's okay. I'm glad you are here too. So thank you so much. Really appreciate you. Thank you, Mrs. 52 Cues, for hanging out with me, and for everybody for hanging out, but Mrs. 52 Cues for doing all the amazing graphics. But that's going to do it for me today. I will look forward to seeing you next week. I hope you have an amazing week, and just remember that the universe has amazing plans just for you. Until next time, peace. The 52 Cues podcast is copyright 2024 818 Studios, all rights reserved. The music played on the podcast is copyright of their respective owners and is used with permission and for educational purposes only. For more information, including joining the community or becoming a member subscriber of 52 Cues, head over to 52cues.com.